Midnight Coup is back, and it just started dropping this week. I've taken it through the Crucible to see how I like it, and I've used it inside of PvE to see where it belongs, whether it be the Crucible or PvE. This gun was previously a PvE weapon, so that's where I expected it to shine, but I did not expect it to be as bad in Crucible as it was. But before we get into the video, if you do enjoy, make sure to hit that like button because it really helps me out, and consider subscribing if you enjoy the kind of content I create. But let's get into the video. First off, I want to start off with the recoil direction. It has a recoil direction of 80, and here you see that I am using a base Midnight Coup. Nothing changed about its recoil direction. We're going to shoot it, not pull the analog stick or anything, and it pulls heavy to the right. So now we're going to put on, I believe, extended barrel, which would just happen to be one of my barrel options, and I'm going to start shooting it again to see what it does, which is going to pull a little to the left because the recoil direction is now sitting at 90, which is still a pretty hard pull. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to rock a counterbalance mod without extended, which is going to give it that 95, which should be perfectly vertical. So we're going to go ahead and shoot it to see how it lines up, and it does pretty well. It pulls a little bit towards the end there, but for the most part it's vertical. And then if you switch it to 100, it is incredibly vertical. So that one went straight and then pulled a little to the left and back to the right again. This one does the same thing, it's just not as noticeable. Next up, I tried a Zen Moment roll, and you'll see here that I start shooting without Zen Moment, and the recoil is again pretty rough. And then I swap to my Zen Moment roll, and you'll see here that it feels significantly better. So I'm definitely going to recommend Zen Moment in the final column for the Crucible. And sorry it's so hard to tell in the footage, but you see it stays on target a lot easier without me having to intervene with the weapon. So next up is a Firefly Kinetic Tremors roll, which is the roll that Noah was using in the live stream, and you'll see here that it takes a solid 6 shots to get Kinetic Tremors going. And it just doesn't feel good with Kinetic Tremors. I'm going to be honest, I've never been a fan of Kinetic Tremors, but there is shoot to loot Kinetic Tremors if that's something that you like to use normally. You can also use Explosive Payload Kinetic Tremors, and while Explosive Payload does not currently make Kinetic Tremors proc faster, there's always a chance that Bungie makes that change in the future. And if you're thinking, why would Bungie change it? They've obviously tested it and they didn't make it a thing. Why would they change it now? Well, we knew that this wasn't going to work because Hung Jury has access to Explosive Payload and Kinetic Tremors. So we tested it out there and it doesn't work. I even have a Explosive Payload Kinetic Tremors Midnight Coup that I am holding onto in case they change this, because recently, as of today, I found out this morning when I woke up on Twitter that Tusk of the Boar with deconstruction works properly now to where the waves and kills give you ammo back. You don't have to hit the enemy with the actual projectile. So, big change there that Bungie apparently didn't test, and maybe they changed this too. There's always a chance of changes in the future. Next up, I want to touch on Firefly combos. So, Firefly does get its damage buffed from the damage perks in the final column. So, Desperate Measures on a weapon kill is going to give you 10% more damage on, your weapon, but your explosion will do 10% more damage, or if you have the 2 stacks, 3 stacks, it'll do 20, 30% respectively. And then Frenzy, when Frenzy is up, and you get a headshot kill with Firefly, it's going to do 15% more damage with the weapon and the explosions. One for All is the same exact thing. You're going to get those hits on 3 separate enemies, and then you can get a kill, and then the explosion is going to do 35% more damage. Same goes for Rampage. If you get a headshot kill with Firefly and Rampage is active, it will do more damage. So now let's talk about Firefly the other way around. Sure, you can get a kill with your damage perk active and it gives you more damage, but can you get a kill with Firefly and it proc your damage buff to go up more? Say with something like Rampage. Can it go to Rampage times 2? Can it activate One for All? Well, I haven't been able to get a Firefly One for All or a Firefly Rampage roll. The closest I got was Firefly Desperate Measures, which won't really answer the question that we have. So to answer this question, I return to 2 older weapons. I have Insidious with Dragonfly One for All, and whatever the heck this gun's name is, with Stats for All Incandescent. And Incandescent is able to activate Stats for All, and Dragonfly is able to activate One for All. And then the final combination with Kinetic Tremors I want to talk about is the Firefly Kinetic Tremors roll. So Firefly and Kinetic Tremors both do the same exact thing. They explode, they kill stuff around it, but they work differently. Firefly activates on kill, and Kinetic Tremors activates after you land a certain amount of hits. So these two don't really work well together unless you want a jack of all trades weapon. While I think Firefly with One for All is much better at ad clearing because you're going to be getting that damage bonus with the Firefly and just be able to destroy waves of trash tier ads, Firefly with Kinetic Tremors, you'll be able to proc Kinetic Tremors on bigger enemies, so like champions, knights with yellow bars. You'll be able to proc Kinetic Tremors and get them to take more damage from that. And then with Firefly, you'll be able to clear out the ads. You just won't have the damage buff on top of that. So it'll still do both like decently well, but I think Firefly One for All is going to be better at ad clearing. And I think that if you're going to use Kinetic Tremors, you could probably use something like Enlightened Action or Explosive Payload. Just Explosive Payload for that more damage on those beefier yellow bar enemies, and then Enlightened Action is just going to give you that extra reload speed. Speaking of Explosive Payload, we're going to look at the role that I was looking forward to the most. So we have Explosive Payload and Frenzy. If you guys don't know, that is the role on Fatebringer I have used for forever. I have one that I got day one, and then I have, when Master Templar came out, I got one of those day one with Explosive Frenzy, and it feels fantastic. You get that max reload speed, that max handling, you're doing that extra 10% damage with Explosive Payload, and then you're doing that extra 15 with Frenzy, and it's criminally good. But if I'm being honest, a better role would just be One for All. One for All doesn't require you to get a kill, you just have to hit 3 separate enemies. So as long as you're not trying to use a primary and a boss rotation, which I don't know why you would be doing, One for All is going to be strictly better. But if I get Explosive Frenzy or Explosive One for All, I'm keeping both of them because it's fantastic. For PvE, I'm either going Explosive Payload or Firefly with One for All Frenzy. Any combination of those is fantastic. For the Crucible, it is a little trickier because opening shot feels great on it, and so does Zen Moment. So if you're going to go Zen Moment, go Explosive Payload, and if you're going to go opening shot, go moving target. And you can use Enlightened Action with either of those, it works good too. And if you're more so here to see how this compares to Fatebringer or Rose, here are the stats broke down with Smallbore and Accurized with a range masterwork on all 3 of them. As you can see, it loses in range by 6 and then 3, and then by 15 stability to Fatebringer. When we look at perks, we see that Midnight Coup has Zen Moment, but Rose has Slide Shot and Opening. So I think Rose wins in the perk department, but if you like that stable feel of Midnight Coup, definitely go with it. It's not going to be a bad choice. It's more so up to you, the player, on which one you're going to use. But as far as Midnight Coup versus Fatebringer, the stats really don't matter inside of PvE, so Midnight Coup definitely sweeps Fatebringer just because it has access to One for All. Not to mention Midnight Coup beats both of these in airborne effectiveness and aim assist. So as far as Crucible goes, it's up to you. That's it for me. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing, and click the notification bell so you can know if I make new videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that video may be.